Hi guys, welcome to Geek Coding Academy. Today we'll see object-oriented programming concepts. So let's start. So in this series, we can see this table of contents. We can learn like what is classes and objects, what are constructors, what do you mean by methods and overloading, what is an encapsulation, what is an inheritance, and what is polymorphism. So let's get started with classes and objects. So guys, what do you mean by classes in Java? In Java, actually, classes is just like a blueprint or a template for creating an object. So when we do a coding or when we do a program, we used to create a class, right? Once we create a class and we'll write a program on it. That is just a blueprint. So the actual creation of object occurs in RAM space only after we run the program. So once we run the program, JVL load this class file, this class, whatever we created, and it will run the particularly main method. So at the time, the control flow will occur based on the how we write a program. So based on that, the object memory got allocated in the RAM space, and once it's done, the JVM will remove the memory. So the class is just like a blueprint. So it consists of properties, means fields, and functions. That is behavior. Like function or behavior is nothing but like a block of code performing a specific type of action. We consider that as a behavior that we enclosed in a method. So class consists of both fields and methods. So when we run this, or when JVM or Java Virtual Machine try to run this main method or load this class, it will create an object. Okay, that object is actually the actual entity present in a RAM space. Okay, so the object is an instance of a class. It represents a specific entity with the properties that word fields and behaviors that is what methods are defined by its class. Okay, so we'll see the example of how classes and objects will be. So this is a class example where you can see we created a class car. Like this is the name of the class. Inside we defined a fields that is what called attributes. We have a string of model means we are defining a car class. Like car class consists of like basic fields like what is the model of car and in which year the car is produced. So that we initialized a variable called year, which is which is of type int, and we initialized a variable called color of type string. Okay, so these are all the fields, and we have a one more method. You can see here. This is a special method. We call it as a constructor. How it's special is it doesn't have any return types. A method usually have a return type. If a method is not returning anything, at least we have to specify void. Void means the method is not returning anything, but the constructor or a special method, it doesn't have any return type, and this method should be same name as of a class name. And this is the method, like this constructor will be called at first when we're trying to create an object. Okay. So here I'm initialized a constructor having parameters. So this is called parameterized constructor. So what about deeply what is constructor and types of constructor we'll see next. So just understand like initialize a special method which is also known as a constructor having some parameters like model, year, and color. So all the fields what I declared here, I'm just passing up here during creation of object. So these will be feed to these fields like this dot model means it's referring to the class variable and it was appending the value what value it gets from the during runtime. Okay, so this is one method and one more method I have here is display details. So this is a normal method. So where you can see I just created this to display the um, fields information stored in the object. So this is consist of void means it does not return anything. I'm just printing all its attributes. So this is what we called a class definition where it has a fields, it has a methods or behavior, and it has a constructor. So constructor method is has to be there. Otherwise, object creation can't be happen. So this is what a blueprint is. And at this point, there is no memory allocated or no object has been created in RAM space. So when you run this command, like car of my car, I created one variable my car of type car equal to new of car. This new operator in Java represent it will create a memory or it will create an object. I'm just using a new and I need to pass the class car class. This actually will call internally the constructor. Okay. So I'm passing here Toyota Camry, the model, year, and color of the car, red. So I created one more statement like this with car of another car equal to new car of these values. So what happened, is when we give this new of class information, JVM will automatically create a memory, create an object, and it will call this parameterized constructor with these values. So automatically it will feed these values to these string of model, year, and color particularly, and it will pass the reference of that object to my reference variable. Okay. So at the time of when we are discussing about variables and data types, we saw, right, like we have a reference data types. So this is one of example of reference data types. So this my car will point to the it is my car will have a address of the object gets created by this new operator. Okay. So similarly, the another object get created and its reference will get stored in another car. So when we call this display details, these are the display. These are the output we got because we are printing car detail, model, year, and color, model, year, and color, model, in color. So during at the time of creation, you pass some values, right? That values is successfully added to the object. That is based on the use of this parameterized constructor. Okay. So we'll see this demo. The same thing, whatever I attached in the screenshot, same code I have written here. So here you can see here class of car. This is a class which I defined. It has three fields and I created one more constructor. This is default constructor. So in constructor that I'll talk about in the next topic. So right now we have one parametric constructor where it accepting these three values while at the time of creation, and you have a normal method. It displays the sysout. So this is a main class. A main class is such that it will be defined with a public. Only one class should be public. Rest all class will not be public. Okay, in Java. So the main class should have a main method. Like this is how a control flow will occur. So I'm creating in a car here. This time I'm calling a default constructor. So default constructor is nothing but like we are just calling an empty constructor that doesn't have any values. Okay, to feed to an object. In such cases, the JVM will do what it will do is it will feed the default values. Okay, we saw already in our previous videos the default value for string is null and default value for int is zero and again default value for string is zero. Sorry, null. So I just create a my car with the default value and I just created another car with a value which I needed at the time of creation. I'm calling this display details okay method here, and I'm just give one space, just empty this is out just to for separation. I'm just calling in another card details dot display details. Like if object are created, the entire thing will be encapsulated into a particular object. So that's the reason like we can able to access that object only with the reference variable. In here my card dot display details I'm calling, and here another card is display details. These display details and these display details is totally different. Even though you return same, we are calling a same class. Both the cases we are calling same class, but the instance will get created. Two instance will created in the RAM space. So first time you are using with the reference variables. These variables consist of address of those instances of those objects. So my card dot display details and another card display details. Let's run this program and we'll see. Yeah, as you can see, the first time I just created object. That's it. I am not initialized with any values which I needed. So JVM will initialize them with null values. Later point, I just initialized with the values I needed using a parameterized constructor. So I got these values. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So let's come to the constructor point. We already saw what is the constructor. Let's see the more depth. A constructor in Java is a special type of method, I already told, which is used to initialize object. At the time of object creation, we have to initialize it, right? Uh, Either by our own values or either by default values, okay? It is automatically called when object of class is created, okay? So a class is a blueprint, an object is a creation of this blueprint. So when it's called, when we are trying to create an object using a new operator, automatically JVM will first call the constructor. So it will first call default constructor if there is no parameterized constructor available. Means depends on how we feel. When we are calling new operator, new of class, inside a bracket, if you pass a parameterized values, it will call that parameterized constructor. Otherwise, it will call the default constructor and initialize the fields with the default values. Okay, the main purpose of constructor is to set the initial values for the instance variables of class. Okay, unlike other methods or constructor, see, unlike other methods or constructors, like other methods are used to run a some block of code which performing particular action, a particular type of code will enclosed in a block, um, just to make sure that it will be easily readable and easily reusable. That is called a method. But constructor is not that. Constructor will be used to initialize an object and to validate data. That we'll see. Constructor and other methods will have some differences. Like what are these? Constructor does not have a return type, even not even void. And constructor should be the same name of class name. Okay. And constructor, it will be automatically invoked when an object is created using a new keyword. Okay. There are two types of constructor we already saw. One is a default constructor. Default constructor is when we don't want to initialize an object, means fields in the present in the object, we can call a default constructor. The default constructor does not take any parameters. It simply assigns default values to an instance variables. Okay. And parameterized constructor is nothing but the constructor that take arguments to initialize an fields with the specific values. Okay. What is the purpose of constructor? Why we need a constructor? First is object initialization. We don't want to create an empty object. We just have to JVM will create an object, and the object consists of class contents like fields, methods, and everything. Those fields are definitely they will be empty initially. We need to initialize them, right? Otherwise, it will be filled up with the default values. So if our objective use case will be like once during the creation of object, we need some value to be there, then we have to use parameterized constructor. Obviously, like the object initialization is the purpose of constructor. When object is created, constructor used to set the initial values for the instance variables. Okay. Setting default or custom values, like constructor allow you to initialize object with default values. I don't want anything at the time of creation, I don't want to initialize an object fields. Like during inside a program, during if necessary, I can initialize. That is also possible. That time I'll go with the default constructor. If at the time of creation only I need to initialize all my fields, I'll go with the parameterized constructor. And it encapsulating in initializing logic. The initializing logic is like at the time of creation, we can have some conditions. Like if at the time of creation, anyway, we'll take the values, right, in parameterized constructor. So we'll check if the values is there, we can create an object with some logic included in it. Otherwise, we could have created an object where the other fields can have a different data so that we can validate the initialization logic. Yeah, this all about constructors, and we saw what is classes and objects and what is constructors. Inside constructor, we saw like how many types of constructor we have, like based on what purpose we are using constructor. Now we'll see what is a methods and what is overloading. Okay, a method in Java is a block of code that performs a specific task or operations. Okay, so methods are used to, why we are need to use a method is we need to encapsulate a reusable code. Okay, we can create a method once and we can call it multiple times. Suppose if we want to print some field information, I just create one method called display. I don't want to use it for only one object. I can use it in the different objects also. And suppose in other logic, if I want to use the same, I could have directly call that method. So we are encapsulating, we are taking out the reusable code and making it a one block so that we can reuse. Okay, and it organize a logic. Suppose like certain logic, if user related logic, I just kept it on one method and some other details I kept it on another method. So it will be like organizing. We are organizing logic. We have a very complex operation, and we can make it into a simple manageable pieces. Okay, and it enhances the readability and maintainability. Suppose tomorrow, like a new developer comes in and we he can able to see our code, you can able to understand. That's the better practice in programming. Like our coding should be easily understandable by others, then it will be a better coding. Okay, and it's maintainable. Suppose like tomorrow a new feature has to be added to our code. If it is properly created under methods and properly organized, so definitely you can able to alter a method like where he has to change, or you can add a new method to it. That will be very easier. Development time will be lesser. So key components of a method, like what is method, and like during the creation of method, what is the key components? First is method signature. So method signature includes a method name and parameterized list. Parameter means like values need to be passed to method. What values we need to pass. And it helps to identify the method unique in class. Like in a class, we have a lot of methods. Like we can differentiate methods based on the parameters. So like some methods may take two parameters, means two values. Some method may take three. Depend on need. Okay, and return type. Like so method, we call a method and we'll return some value to the calling method. So these return type defines the type of value the method will return. For example, it may be return int, void, or string. If a method does not return anything, then return type is a void. Void means nothing. The method is not returning anything. Okay, method name is the unique identifier to call the method. So how you call the method? Through method name. Okay, what is the parameters? The values passed to the method to be used inside this logic. Okay, so what I mean by method body, the block of code inside a method that get executed when method is called, like body of method. That is what our logic stays there. This is a sample method we created. I just created one class as math operation, and inside the class, I created a method called add because it's mathematical operations. I created a method called add. It takes two parameters, int A and int b. Return a plus b. I'm just returning the value here, like a plus b. So this is a public class. I already told in Java programming there will be one public class. That is where the control flow enters into the code, and the public class should have a main method. So this is a main method. It's public static of void main. This is a main method. Like here, I'm just using a new operator to create a object of this class. This is a blueprint. I'm just creating an object here. Here I'm not passing anything. So automatically, like I'm calling a default constructor because I don't have any fields to initialize here. So I'm just calling an empty without parameter math operations. JVM will automatically call the default constructor, and this default constructor JVM will call automatically. We don't have to write a default constructor. So after that, I'm just created one variable called sum of type int equal to math. Math is this is the reference variable which is of type same class type. This reference variable consists of the address of an object. So using this reference variable, I'm just invoking a method add, okay, which is there in object. Here I'm passing two values 5, 10 because these method consist of these two parameters int A and int b, and they are returning a plus b. So a sum, I'm getting a plus b. If you print the sum here, I get 10 plus 5, 15. Okay, this is a simple example of a method. So what do you mean by method overloading? We understand what is method. Now let's see what method overloading. As the name suggests, it's overloading, right? So means like there may be multiple method with same name. Okay. Actually, there is a feature in Java that allows a class to have a multiple method with the same name. Why we need to create a multiple method with same name? That we have a there is a oops concept that we'll discuss in a coming up videos. But first you'll understand best for method overloading. Why we need to overload a method? In order to um, support the oops concept that I will discuss in future videos. Okay, with the same name but different parameters list. Okay, you are creating a method with the same names, but how will you differentiate with a parameterized list? And that means the value we pass into the method will be vary either in number of parameters, like means two method having the same name, one is want one value and another want two value, or type of parameters like one needs an integer value and one needs a double value, or order of parameters like both the methods having a two values needed that I'm calling. So one need like int first and double next, and another need double first and int next. This type, like you can create a same name methods until unless it should be different in parameters, either in number of parameter will be different, or type of parameter will be different, or order of parameter will be different. Then Java will support same names for methods. So why we need to do this? It provides flexibility and increase code readability. Suppose we need to have a add method. So adding a two numbers and adding a three numbers, both we can able to use, right? So it increases the code readability. Instead of writing something else name, we can use add only. But one add will take say three-digit number, and one add will take a two parameter numbers. All are the same name to perform a different tag based on the input provided. Okay. Why we use method overloading? I already told. Enhance readability means overloading allows you to use the same method name for different operation. So making code easier to understand. And second one is flexibility. You can define multiple methods for different input type without needing a separate names for each. Suppose like in runtime, I have only one method, like I have defined add. So if user passes two parameter to it, it will add. If user passes three parameter also, it will add because I have written two methods, add name, same name with add, with accepting a different parameters. And simplified API. API we'll talk about in the next coming up videos. It allows the developers to create a methods that can handle kind of data while keeping the method name intuitive. If we get a different types of data, we can able to handle, but the method name should be same because a method name is everywhere it is used, right? So that's the reason. And also readability will be increased. So what is the rules of method overloading? I already defined. Method overloading means it's creating a same method name inside a class is acceptable by Java only if the parameters are different. Parameter are different in the case there is a different number of parameters should be there, or different parameter types or different parameter order. So we'll see one by one by changing number of parameter. So here I have a class called calculator. I have two method. I have one method like add. My goal is to add addition, but sometimes I get a two value, sometimes I get a three values. So what I do is I go with the method overloading. I just created a same method signature added, but the parameters here I have a two parameters, you have three parameters. So this is one condition. Number of parameters will be different. So after that, if I call 510, if I give 510, it will give me 15. If I give 510, 15, it will give me 30. Okay. So overloading by changing parameter types. So as you can see here in this case, I'm just changing the parameter types like int a and int b. In our case, double a and double b. So if I pass integral value, it will accept. If I pass floating values, it will accept. That's one of the great feature, right? So if you pass whatever data, based on data, it will give the output. And overloading by changing the order of parameters. So here my program will accept int a and double b. In another method, double a and int b. So I can easily call. Like however the way the in data come, my program will handle because of method overloading. So advantage of method overloading, that is code readability, and it improves readability. Code can be used and flexible API design. Okay. So let's code method overloading. Yeah. So I created this class called calculator where I added all these methods. See, these three method having the same method name add, but here only two parameters is there. Here three parameters is there. Here we have a two parameters, but the value will be the data type will be different. Type of parameter will be different. Similarly, I have a multiply three method with same name, but here parameter is two. Here type of parameter is different, and here order of parameter will be different for these two. So let's run this program and we'll see. So guys, as you can see, we got the response accordingly. Okay. Here you see, like whatever I'm passing, my add method takes care, and whatever the data I'm passing here. Sometimes pass int, sometimes spot floating value. My multiply will handle. So this is a beautiful concept. And because of this concept, we have our oops pillar, one of the pillar, like a polymorphism exist. Like we'll see in the next video, like how method overloading will be more important in the concept like interface or inheritance, a lot of these concepts. So we'll see, guys. So this is how about we discuss now, like all these concepts like class and objects, what I mean by constructors, and what is methods and method overloading. So in our next class, we'll see more advanced oops features. So till then, keep watching, keep learning. Thank you. Bye bye.